privileged to have a wonderful, very close family, but at some point today we have to discuss Essay Freiburg. So I hope you can explain to me what's going on there, because it's not pretty at the moment. I came from a very close family. We had, I have to say, very little money, so we didn't come from a lot of circumstance, but we were very close. Parents were both hardworking. Neither of my parents were college educated. In fact, my father didn't get out of high school, but having said that, they were smart, and they knew in a new generation that their children needed to go to university, and they instilled that in us. Our family was a very, very, very close family.
What do your kids disagree the most with you?
These are great questions. I would say that they think we're pretty strict. We're tough on schoolwork, tough on manners. They're sick of hearing this from us about table manners, I can tell you that much. They're great kids. We set a very high standard. And in exchange for that, we hope we give them a lot of opportunity and exposure to the world. I'd say this is good advice for all of you. We shouldn't judge necessarily by the outcomes. I think all of us focus too much on what the report card says. That's important, by the way, but it's most important what you put into it. And if you give it everything you have, I think that's the most important thing, and that's the high standard that we hold our children to.
And how has your life changed since you've been here in Germany?
Well, it's a very public life. So I'd say that I can't wake up in the morning and not shave and go out with a bunch of holes in my t-shirt and just wander around the neighborhood, which I do in New Jersey. I try not to have t-shirts with holes in them, my bad, but I drive my own car in New Jersey. I don't drive my car here. You're typically in public, and that's something you have to remember all the time. The best example is facilitating exchange programs, exchange experiences, which I strongly, passionately encourage for all of you, preferably in the United States.
Why are the Republicans against Obama's health care reform?
My flippant answer is you'll have to ask them. It's not a perfect law. There are elements of it which even the president has said need to be adjusted and will be adjusted. More competition, which typically is good for the consumer. It doesn't discriminate based on, this is a fancy phrase in English, pre-existing conditions. So I don't agree with the criticism. Again, it's not perfect, but boy, I'll tell you, we are a great country, and we just needed more of our people covered, and we needed a better system, and I think we have both.
We continue now with foreign policy, and they are first about the relationship from US, Germany, and what is this relationship about?
It's a great relationship. It's one of the closest relationships we have in the world. Might be the closest. If you looked over the past 65 years, you'd probably say it is the closest. But it's very different than it used to be. It used to be very much about a divided Berlin, a divided Germany, and a divided Europe. So the intensity of the German-American relationship had as its objective, it was co-located. We wanted to end the Cold War, undivide Berlin, Germany, and Europe. So today we work on stuff that you don't see every day. You can't put your hand on a wall. Thank God I don't. But the irony and the paradox is it's harder for people your age to understand the relationship, because if we were together 20 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago, people your age would have been drenched with American culture.
What did the Democrats and President Obama change in this relationship when they came into office?
It was pretty deep to begin with, but I'd say it's gotten even deeper. So President Bush and the Chancellor had a very good relationship. We did a lot together. But I'd say because in particular President Obama stands for coalitions, doing things together. These are not his words, but mine. Even when you can do something on your own, it's better to do it with friends. Because you have a broader buy-in, you have a broader, probably more likely, better and permanent solution.
Will the US pull out troops of Afghanistan?
So President Obama made a decision, which I think history will be very kind to, and that is we surged. We added 30,000 more troops into Afghanistan, and then we have subsequently announced that we're going to begin a slow, responsible, based on the facts on the ground, drawdown of that surge. We've agreed that the reasonable time frame to transition from the coalition forces to Afghan army, police, etc., is from the period 2011 to 2014.
What's the current relationship between Afghanistan and the United States?
I think it's largely very constructive. We spent a lot of time not just with President Karzai, but also with ministers, with members of his government up and down. We see things always the same way? No. But the reality is we ultimately have a common objective, a responsible transition that puts Afghanistan, both as a civilian and security matter, back completely into the hands of its leadership. And that's what we're doing our best at the moment.
You guys have no easy times.
I know.
The last easy question was to name the names of my children.
So the relationship to Russia still is important.
Hugely important. Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Period, full stop. That's really important.
So, first piece of advice, be honest with yourself. What I mean by that is you could fool me. You could have told me that was your sweatshirt. But as a serious piece of advice to you, be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, find ways to ask yourself, what am I good at? What am I not good at? What do I like? What do I not like? Particularly as you leave school and you start thinking about what do I want to do for my life? Where do I want to live? What do I want to do? So a good thing, a good little system, a shorthand system that I've thought about is this. You draw a grid, and you sort of say, what do I like? And what do I not like? What am I good at? What am I not good at? And you don't have to show this to anybody. This could be you. So, I'll give you examples for me. And this is a bad place to say this, so tune my eyes. I'm not good at technology, and I don't like it. I am not the next Steve Jobs. What do I like, but I'm not good at? I want to be a rock and roll singer. I love rock and roll. I'm neighbors with Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi in New Jersey. I love them both to pieces. They're my heroes. But frankly, I stink. I'm really bad at it. I don't like, but I'm good at, disciplining people. But it's important to know that I don't like it at all, but I know that I'm pretty good at it. And then the last thing that I like, I like to lead, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So I like to get out front. I like to set a course. I like people. And so you can come up with your own grid, but my first really core piece of advice, other than be careful of your online, but when you're on Facebook or whatever you're on, that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life, so just remember that. It's like writing a book. You'll always be able to look that book up. I'm not saying don't use it, but be careful. But this is my first really sort of, what would I be doing if I were you, thinking about what you're going to do with your life. So try to come up with something. It doesn't have to be that. That's one for me. William Fulbright, really, I think is the godfather of any of you Fulbrighters? Fulbright was a Democratic senator from Arkansas. But he learned the lessons of the failed Versailles Treaty, the mess that was created, admittedly and inadvertently, after World War I. And this guy said, you know what, one of the best ways we can stay closely together as humanity is to start exchange programs. And he came up with that idea in 1946. A very unlikely guy to have come up with it. It's an extraordinary program. Do everything you can to keep exchanging, keep going to someone else's country. Beware of one-way bets. Warren Buffett, I think, had this phrase, something seems too good to be true. It probably is. And if you've been at the poker table for 5 minutes and you haven't figured out who the chump is, it's you. And just look at a few examples things that looked permanent. It's always good to question, you know what, is that really permanent? When you feel things are good, you feel you have valleys and peaks, and people think in the peak that things can only get better, and in the valley that can only get worse. Those are the times to push back and say, wait a minute, maybe we're not seeing everything we should see. So don't accept one-way bets. Don't accept things that seem like they're permanent. Ask yourself who your heroes are. And then ask yourself, what would my hero do in this situation? What would I do if no one was in this room and nobody was looking? Would you do the right thing? That's another way to ask what your heroes would do. So I've got two types of heroes. One group is the German-American crowd, and I've got a bunch, but I'll pick two. The second category is civil rights in America. I think about Rosa Parks, and I think about MLK. So why do I pick them? First of all, don't pick heroes because you think they're perfect, because there isn't a perfect person among us. There are flaws. We all have flaws. Leadership, push back. You've got to see the horizon. And those guys saw it. On the right side, the best example that I know, other than those who stood up in Leipzig in late 1989, they did it with great courage and in groups, is Rosa Parks, a woman in Montgomery, Alabama, who literally changed the world. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
Wondering, with your background in Wall Street, how do you feel about the Occupy protests?
That's a great question. I'm fascinated by this. And it's going to be very interesting to see where it goes. It's already gone global. Last weekend, it went global. It's a different brand depending on what city you're in. I'm saying this not as a former banker, although I am. This isn't all about Wall Street. This is about politicians. It's about regulatory environments, taxes, how society works. But what a brilliant notion to take Wall Street, which is a name that carries. You know, that translates. This is a small group of people over here who have all the goodies. And the rest of us are left with, come on, where it goes, I don't know, but please, God, it stays peaceful. I really appreciate your coming out and sparing me an hour today. It's been an honor to be here. I got to keep rocking. Thank you very much for having me.